Harry Potter and the AI Adventure 3. Chapter 3. Ron was struggling in his tests. It was the question that caused him to be bewildered for 5 hours. The question was, "What is your name?" Professor McGonagall was equally surprised to see someone so stupid in all her life. When she saw Harry enter the classroom a few minutes later, she wondered how he had found his way there. He was clearly distracted by whatever was going on in his mind. He hadn't noticed Professor McGonagall at all until she spoke. "Mr. Potter!" she exclaimed in amazement when she recognized him. "Oh, good morning, Professor," Harry replied awkwardly. "How are you doing? How did you even get here? I thought you were studying in Ravenclaw Tower." Harry nodded. "No, actually I came here in search of Hermione. I heard she's gone running about naked again. Her mental health is getting worse," Harry explained. "So, you really think that, Mr. Potter? Well, that's very interesting. Come with me. I'm going to check if my office has been touched," she instructed. Harry followed reluctantly behind her, fearing the old lady was going to molest him again or that Hermione had broken into McGonagall's office and spread feces all over the place. When they got to McGonagall's office, Harry realized she had done both of those things already. In fact, she had used her fireplace, as evidenced by a pile of feces scattered around the room and a large smear of blood on one of the windows. Harry stared blankly at her in disbelief. "I swear, Professor," he muttered, shaking his head. "You are not a human being, are you?" The professor chuckled lightly before turning her attention back to the mess in front of her. "I'm afraid I can't allow you to stay any longer. I will have my assistant, Mr. Filch, do your homework, and then you are dismissed for the day. If you have any further questions, you can come back tomorrow morning or the day after at the latest," McGonagall said, rubbing Harry's cheek in a creepy way as he walked past her. Harry didn't want to argue with her, so instead he simply thanked her before walking out the door without saying another word. As soon as he had left the classroom, however, he turned around and sprinted straight back to his friends. "Guys, listen to me. We need to talk." Harry gulped as he began to relay the bad news about Hermione to Snape and Lupin, who had joined them in the hall after hearing about their encounter with the Dursleys. "I don't understand," Snape said disbelievingly. "Neither do I," Lupin admitted. "What does that mean?" Harry asked, growing anxious. "Hermione must be found. I dread to think what she's done to my office if she had left excrement and blood in McGonagall's," Snape sneered. "I don't care about McGonagall's office, Professor. I care about Hermione," Harry argued frantically. "There's no time to lose. You have to go and rescue her. You cannot be serious." "You have no idea where she might have gone," Lupin argued. "At least let us assess the damage done to the office." "Okay, then," Harry said, sadly remembering the horrid smells of Hermione's poo all over the office. He took the two back in where Ron was still struggling with his test and towards the disgusting office of McGonagall. The two adults stood outside the door as Harry opened it cautiously. "Professor, what happened?" he exclaimed, rushing into the room and looking about frantically. Hermione was laying face first in the middle of the room, covered in puke. She was shivering uncontrollably with her arms wrapped tightly around her stomach. Her naked bottom was covered in diarrhea, and the room looked worse than before. It was obvious that she had been there for a long time and had thrown up most of the contents of her stomach. "Well, is she okay?" Harry questioned nervously as he looked between the two adults in the room. "She should probably take some antihistamines for the headache," Snape commented grimly, stepping forward towards the girl who seemed unconscious in an attempt to check for signs of life. He reached out a shaking hand towards her, but stopped short of touching her when a high-pitched scream escaped her lips, and her hands shot up defensively towards the man. "Get away from me! Don't touch me!" she screamed, punching Snape in the face with poo-covered hand, sending her own vomit splashing over herself. Snape was taken aback by the force of the blow, which sent him flying across the room, colliding with the wall opposite. "What in Merlin's name do you think you're doing?" he shouted angrily as he picked himself up off the floor. "What am I doing? This is what I was doing. Get out of my sight, you bastard. You have no business being in here," she said, as she wiped off more of her own vomit onto the floor. Then she turned to face Snape, who was standing upright. "I told you to leave. You are not welcome here. Get out! Go away!" she screamed, pushing Snape forcefully out of the door. As Snape staggered backwards, Remus grabbed him by his robes. "What in Merlin's name were you thinking?" Snape wasn't listening. He had enough, and grabbed a table next to Ron and threw it at Hermione's head. It hit her square on the side of her face, knocking her out completely and creating a large gash. "Merlin, damn it, Snape! That was my girlfriend. Stop throwing shit at her," Ron yelled at him. "Get her back to her dormitory now," Snape snapped, trying desperately to ignore the blood seeping out of the wound. "Where is her dormitory?" Ron questioned, frowning at him. "And why does she look so bad?" he added curiously. "The third-floor girls' bathroom," Snape ordered impatiently, ignoring the other teen's last question. "And hurry! I don't know if she'll wake any time soon," Snape added as the three made their way through the castle, carrying Hermione's limp body in the middle of them. Once at the girls' bathroom, they washed her stained body as the ghost of Moaning Myrtle appeared and laughed at Hermione's state while making suggestive comments. The four teenagers carried Hermione back to her bed, leaving her body on her bed. She woke up sometime later, groaning loudly. She sat up confused and tried to rub her eyes. When her eyes finally cleared, she started to panic, seeing Ron and Remus in the infirmary with her. "What are you doing here?" she panicked. "Your mental health is deteriorating at a rapid pace. You're going to the asylum," Remus said sadly. Ron began to cry. "What will I tell the kids?" He wailed, burying his face in Hermione's shoulder as Hermione sobbed loudly. "They'll hate me. We'll never be able to be close anymore," she cried out. "I hate myself," she cried, feeling tears streaming down her face. "Don't worry, guys. I'll help out. They won't hate you for this. It will just be easier to explain to everyone that it's my fault," Harry assured them, reaching into his pocket and pulling out his wand. "Now, hold still." Harry fired a spell, and it caused Hermione to explode with brain everywhere. "Oops!" muttered Harry, staring at the messy head of hair which littered the floor before turning around to glare at the other two. "You've got to get rid of the remains and make sure they can't find her body." "I'm sorry," he mumbled apologetically. "She wouldn't stop screaming and crying until I did something," he explained. "I'll clean up the rest of the mess," he said, picking up the pieces of Hermione's body and placing them in a bin. "Thanks, Harry," Ron said gratefully, wiping his eyes. "I'm going to go and see if Draco is all right." "See ya," he said, waving goodbye as he ran out the door. "So, are you okay?" Harry asked awkwardly, as he leaned against the wall, avoiding eye contact with the boy. "That must really suck."